This is Jonathan Lane from Fan Film Factor, and today I'm here with a person who needs no introduction, so I'm not going to introduce him. Yes, I am. It's ALEC Peters, Garth himself, the creator of Axanar, which is finally making its sequels. They're in production as we speak. Yay. Perks are being fulfilled. Patches are out there. ALEC, welcome back to Fan Film Factor.
Thank you.
Now, a lot has been happening. You want to bring us a little bit up to date, just sort of on a 30,000-foot level of what's going on lately?
Sure, and as always, everyone should keep up to date by checking out our website, Axanar.com. That is where we post all the latest and greatest on what's happening, and the easiest way to keep abreast of everything. But
and by the way, every so often on Facebook, we see a post where somebody says, "Hey, I didn't even know Axanar was still happening. What's going on?" Yeah,
I know. It never ceases. Especially the thing that's even more, troublesome is the people who are like, "Well, I donated to your campaigns, and I haven't heard from you in 5 years or 4 years or whatever." I'm like, well, that's not my problem. I mean, we post on our website, we post on Facebook, we post on Twitter, we post updates to Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So if you gave, you're getting updates for, we have podcasts, we have video updates on our YouTube channel, which is now at almost 90,000 subscribers. You basically have to be trying to avoid us to not know what's going on with Axanar.
I think there's a legal term, best efforts. You're making your best efforts to communicate with people, and if they're not going to at least do a little bit on their part to seek out some of this, it's like that. You literally you can lead the horse to water, but at this point they're asking you to push the horse's mouth under the water and just hold it down there until it starts drinking,
or turn their horse upside down and pour the water down its throat.
Chug it, chug.
Yeah, and then the other thing that gets me is, I was thinking of this morning. The people says, I had one irreverent hater send me an email, which ironically wound up in junk mail. I was cleaning out my junk mail folder. I said, "Oh, how appropriate that this went here." And he said, "Well, you haven't done anything in 4 years." And I'm like, how big a blank do you have to be, fill in your own expletive here, to make the claim that we've done nothing in 4 years? Besides, we settled a 13-month lawsuit with 2 major studios. We then moved the sets across the country, reestablished the studio here, finished the bridge set, have produced hundreds of hours of YouTube programming. We've done podcasts. We've done immense content on our website. We're constantly keep people updated. We have had our first shoot, and some random moron says we've done nothing. It's just like, what kind of moron do you have to be to say something like that? It's just like you're literally going out of your way to be an idiot to say that. So I really, at this point, I mean, my temper gets shorter and shorter with people who are willfully ignorant or intentionally asinine. Now, that being said, I get so much pleasure out of the people who are totally engaged, who the fans are, I get emails all the time, people who are saying, "Thanks so much for sticking with this. I admire your perseverance. We're with you. We love you. You guys are great." People like that, I mean, they really make your day. Those are the people you're doing it for, the people that notice and appreciate, and you're like, I'm doing it for them. I mean, it's just, we want to keep doing this because we're excited about it. And when people notice and it enriches people's lives, it makes us feel good.
And now it's really happening. I mean, that's the thing is that, up until a couple of months ago, it's like, well, he's finishing the bridge or whatever, but, the only people who are filming on it are a bunch of high schoolers, which, by the way, that's something as well, that, there are all of these high schoolers in Gwinnett County who are having access to this amazing set that they would not have otherwise. But, I can understand saying, okay, well, where's Axanar already? Start making Axanar. Why you keep delaying it? Well, now you're making Axanar. You've had one whole shoot that was done over, what was it, a 3-day weekend, a 4-day weekend in early October?
Yeah, it's 3-day weekend, 3 days of shooting on our set, which, I will argue is the best Star Trek bridge set in the country.
I would argue that, too. having been there myself a couple of weeks ago shooting Interlude. It's just an amazing, I mean, you can do so much with that bridge, and it's indescribable how much detail is in there and how many different ways it can be shot.
And, kudos to the team in California that built the structure, but really it came alive when Dana and his crew, James Simpson, Scott Little, when those, and all the volunteers who've worked on it, when they really went to town on it, right? And they started installing electronics, and we got all the screens in, and we got and then we changed the power out, and that's when that thing came alive, and it is really amazing right now. So, listen, now Ares Studios is its own separate. We basically spun it off from Axanar back in California, and as industry studios, and that operation now, Ares Studios is now cooking along. It's working with the Gwinnett County school system. It's got its own website, aresstudios.net. You can go check it out. We're working with the Georgia Film Academy, where we've got a fully functional store and a Patreon that generates over $2,500 a month to keep the studio open. So, yeah, so it's really.
And you just filed for 501c nonprofit status, correct?
Right. So we just filed for 501c3 nonprofit status.
So basically, my $5 a month Patreon donation to you is going to be tax deductible next year. Is that true?
You only give me $5 a month, you cheapskate.
Dude, that's $60 a year. I got my own fan film to produce.
I know. I just give you grief. Yeah. So as soon as that's done, now and it was interesting. We filled out the application. We were about to file it, and then what happened was Ares Studios wasn't incorporated as a not-for-profit corporation originally, which is ironic considering how much money I've spent on it. I'm certainly not making money. So we had to literally reincorporate as a not-for-profit corporation and then get a new EIN and then file the paperwork. But the good news is the 1023, which is the form that you filled out to become a 501c3. Now, this is all IRS speak, right? So a 501c3 is a tax designation that means you are a nonprofit charity, and donations are then tax deductible. And I'm following in the lead of all the dog rescues I worked with, that have been filing. But we started the paperwork in California, hired a lawyer, paid him $1,000. Not a lawyer, it was a company that just focused on nonprofits. And because back then, the paperwork, the 1023, it's a bit of a process. I mean, it's a dozen, 24 pages you have to fill out. And then it takes months to get it back. Well, what they did was the IRS created a form 1023-EZ, and that form is like 3 pages, and it's usually turned around in 3 weeks. So we literally could be a nonprofit before the end of the year. I'm sorry.
Ooh, speaking of dog rescue.
Well, let's put this on pause. Hold on a second. They're home.
No, well, we don't pause. We're going to listen to the doggies.
Mom, go see it. All right, come on. Let's go downstairs. Sorry. Hold on. Okay.
Yeah, folks, that pause was about 2 minutes while Alec got the doggies downstairs. So what were they barking at?
Crystal came home.
Ah, well, that's a good reason to bark. Those dogs are very, very cute and cuddly, and they love to be picked up, and they love to be petted, and they love to grab your food when you're not looking.
Oh, yeah. You cannot leave them alone. You cannot turn your head when you're eating. They are, I've spoiled them.
You totally spoil them. I mean, they basically climb up on the couch, and if you're like eating on the coffee table or whatever, they'll just lean their head. They're little tiny Chihuahua Dachshund mixes, right?
Well, 2 of them are Chihuahuas, which is a Chihuahua Dachshund mix, and 1 is a full-blood tan Chihuahua.
That's true. That would be Pee-wee.
Who's
the regular Chihuahua.
Who's kind of my boy.
He's definitely your boy. But Mama and Zoe, those are the long dogs. And the thing about long dogs is they can get their heads from the couch to the coffee table and whatever food is on the coffee table.
Yeah, they keep popping up under your armpit. Like, hi, I'm here for food. It's like, no, you're not.
That's my egg roll. You can't have it. Oh, you licked it now. I hope your mouth is clean because I'm going to finish that egg roll. Anyway, so we interrupt this conversation about the IRS to talk about dogs, but let's get back to the IRS. So there's this easy form, and you filled it out, and you said, potentially like 3 weeks from now you could be a 501c3?
Yeah, I'm not sure the date that the it's in my lawyer's hand. So when the actual filing of the 1023 Easy happens, because they had to, since we want to stay as Aries Studios, there was some legal rigmarole they had to go through to change to a not-for-profit. So anyway, that's all done. I think that's all done now, and then the form gets filed, and then it's 3 weeks later. Hopefully we're done. So I'm hoping before Christmas we will have our 501c3. And
so conceivably, people could get the tax write-off for fiscal year 2019. Is that correct?
That's absolutely what I'm hoping. Yeah, absolutely what I'm hoping. And so now this is for Aries Studios, right? So which is separate. I keep telling people there's Axanar Productions, which its only job is to produce Axanar, and then it will fold. And then there's Aries Studios, which is a physical soundstage. So in Star Trek terms, people, look at Paramount Studios. So the last 3 JJ movies that Paramount made, okay, Paramount Studios are the sound stages on which at least the first 2 of JJ's movies were shot. Bad Robot was the production company producing Star Trek. And so in this example, Axanar Productions is like Bad Robot, and Aries Studios is like Paramount. Now, Paramount Studios also helped fund in that regard, so it's a little more covered. But basically, it gives you the idea. Aries Studios is a soundstage. That is where we shoot, where sets are located and we shoot. Basically, Aries Studios acquired the sets, the assets from Axanar, and houses them and supports them, and that's what's supported by the Patreon campaign.
Now, has CBS, Viacom CBS, Paramount, Loeb and Loeb, whatever we're going to call them at this point, have they finally accepted this? Because I know that you got a notice of breach saying, you're crowdfunding when you're not allowed to crowdfund because of this Patreon, and I know that you responded to them saying these are 2 completely separate legal entities. Has CBS gotten the memo on that yet?
Well, they've gotten it. They have not responded to me. I will say after the last email I got from Loeb and Loeb,
that'd be Ferengi Loeb and Loeb, by the way, right? The greedy lawyers.
Yes, just that's the way to think of them, without being cute and cuddly,
without the umaks.
Exactly. So, our last correspondence, they sent me a long letter. Well, because we had launched our crowdfunder for all of our donors to crowdfund for the next 2 episodes. So, there were a bunch of things happening, including a couple of our fans ran crowdfunders, and we had to kind of discourage that. So they sent me an email with here are the 10 things you've done wrong. And honestly, I'm not going to reveal the letters themselves are confidential. I'm not going to reveal what was in them, but I will say that I replied to every single one of their allegations and said, you're wrong.
I would like to say allocations. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. I said, no, you're wrong. No, we didn't do that. That's not, or you missed this. I mean, I'm sorry, you missed the blog article where I say that I told this fan not to fundraise for us, right? So that kind of eliminates.
That's you really have been playing whack-a-mole with a lot of the fans who have been trying to help you fundraise.
And I said, look, if you want to fundraise so you can come to the set, that's one thing. But I can't have you fundraising on my behalf, right? I mean, this is just the spirit of the settlement agreement. So, we've done all those things. And then, and their contention is that, well, you can't raise money for the studio. Well, I'm like, don't even, they sent that to me a second time. And I said, look, it's very clear that Aries Studios is a separate corporation, not part of the settlement agreement. It is very clear that Aries Studios is not doing what Axanar Productions and Axanar were doing. It is a not-for-profit soundstage.
Soon to be not-for-profit, yeah. Non-profit.
Yeah. I mean, it is technically not-for-profit right now since we're losing money on it every month. But it's got an educational mission, and it is supporting all fan films. not just Axanar. Anyone's willing. Any fan film can come and shoot on it, as others are, as you did, as Vance Major Owen is going to, and Josh Irwin in Victoria. I've offered them this to shoot it. So the idea is it's a totally separate business with a totally different mission. And I have been very upfront with the Loeb and Loeb lawyers, like, no, you're wrong. This is business law day one at law school. I mean, as a matter of fact, you could take business law in your undergrad, and they covered that, they covered what a legal entity is and what the rights are in piercing the corporate veil and how impossible that is. And we've taken steps to be very clear about what is happening with Axanar and what is happening with ALEC Studios. And so I'm not going to allow ourselves to be bullied by CBS. And honestly, it's the lawyers. Let me be clear. I have had no communication with CBS, and I know for a fact that most of these letters get generated without the input of CBS.
Wait, is a lawyer allowed to generate a letter without consent or knowledge of the client?
That's between them and their client.
Okay, that doesn't seem right to me.
Although their lawyer admitted to me that the last letter they sent us, no one at CBS knew about it. So this time I sent my response along with the original email to John Van Sitters at CBS, who's the brand manager for Star Trek, and Veronica Hart, who's the global Star Trek maven, whatever her title is, smart lady. And I said, look, you need to know what's going on with your lawyers because, one, I'm trying to comply with the settlement agreement. Two, you settled because you didn't want this lawsuit going on while you were launching Star Trek Discovery. And you've got Star Trek Picard coming up this January. You don't want to be taking me to arbitration to argue stupid minutia that are not going to prevent Axanar from being made while Picard is premiering. So I said, look, just leave me alone. Let me make Axanar, which we are going to do as, in the way we've always intended to do it. And once I'm done, I'm out of fan film. I have no interest in doing fan films after we finish Axanar. Right? I'm on to making money about stuff. Producing science fiction that is not Star Trek. A project I have on the books it's science fiction. It's great. It's nothing to do with Star Trek.
So it seems to me like you've got the perfect argument here of ALEC Studios being separate from Axanar Productions, only because Axanar gets made, hopefully sometime next year it gets released, and it's done. It's over. And ALEC Studios continues. I mean, you're not planning on shutting down the studio once Axanar is released, right?
No, that's the whole idea. ALEC Studios will continue. Axanar Productions will get shut down. ALEC Studios will continue, and maybe that's where we'll make our next series out of, right? Convert the sets a little.
You've got a gorgeous bridge. It's Star Trek-ish, but not only is it not exactly Star Trek, you have the ability to change so many of the graphics in that. I mean, you could turn that thing into Battlestar Galactica if you wanted to. Just put some Cylons on it.
Take out the center consoles, do something different. Yeah, there's a lot we could do. And so that's kind of what we hope to.
So anyway, you've got another shoot coming up. When is your next shoot coming?
First weekend in December.
First weekend of December. You're doing how many shoots in total? 4 shoots? 5 shoots?
That's really up in the air. We have. Well, realistically, the only one we really have to do is the one in L.A., which will be March, April timeframe. That's the only one we have to do. We could get the next 2 episodes done with that.
And the one in L.A. is going to be pretty much just green screen and lots of aliens. It's going to have Gary Graham as Soval. It's going to have your Andorian Admiral. It's going to have your Klingon Thought Admiral Moreau. But it's pretty much it's the huge makeup shoot. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'll call it, just so people know what's coming up. But the thing happening in December, that's not. I mean, what is the December thing? Is it an actual real show? I know you're doing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. What's going on then?
So we're doing a scene where Garth is reviewing casualty reports, which we need for perks, because a bunch of people donated to be a casualty in the 4 Years' War. So we need to do that. And there's one scene with Garth that Paul wants. And we're going to shoot that. Those are going to happen on Saturday the 7th, and then on the 8th, in the morning, we're shooting some behind-the-scenes footage, and then in the afternoon, we're shooting panel discussions on the bridge with the cast and crew. And we're bringing in Linda Alexander, the author of the biography of Steve Einat, and Sally Marshall, Steve's widow. And
Steve being the person who played Garth in Whom Guns Destroy, for those people who are curious what that is.
Yep, exactly. So, and we're going to broadcast it. We're going to webcast it, live stream it, and kind of treat this as Axacon 2019. So it'll be a 4 hours of panel discussions from the Bridge of the Aries, live streamed on YouTube, and so it's a convention that anyone in the world can watch.
You're going to have just one camera shooting, or you're going to have multiples?
Multiples, yeah. We actually have 3 cameras. We will have 3 cameras for this.
Cool. So it won't just be like the same framed thing. Like a lot of times you see the con videos, and it's just like the entire, panel table, and you're watching that for 45 minutes. And
I'm not sure that we can change what the live stream is. The live stream, I mean, you would have to have a switcher of some sort and a panel where someone's acting like a TV director switching shots. I'm not sure we can do that. But we will have multiple cameras because this will be on the Blu-ray. The panels will be on the Blu-ray. So for that, we'll be able to take our time and edit it and put on B-roll and title graphics and everything.
So that's a pretty big weekend. Now, I know that you're not allowed to discuss fundraising. I can discuss fundraising because you're currently at about 2/3 of the way to the $60,000 that you're currently trying to make, but you can't solicit anything for that. But are you allowed? You can't talk about fundraising, but are you allowed to talk about fund spending?
I really can't solicit fundraising, right? There's nothing says I can't talk about it. I just can't say, hey, please donate and go to our site.
And you don't have to do that. I'll put that on the blog because I never signed a settlement with CBS. But basically, I guess my biggest question is, you currently do have a crowdfunder up. It's behind some layers of firewall so that only people who are members of Aries Digital can donate. Which the settlement agreement says that you can allow people to donate. You just can't use public sites like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So right now, you are trying to raise $60,000, as you said, to cover the first 2 shoots. And obviously, the first shoot has already happened. This next shoot coming up, that's not the second shoot, though, right?
Our second shoot is the one coming up. And both these shoots, the one we did in October and the one we're doing here in December, are covered under the $60,000 that we're raising.
Okay, and that $60,000 is basically because everything at this point has come out of your pocket personally, and you told me you were willing to put $15,000 or $25,000 of your own money into this, but at this point $60,000 you said was going to prevent you going forward from funding anything else because you're basically just out of money, right?
Yeah, I can no longer fund. I've got my own own expenses I have to pay for, and so the fans are going to have to. We're basically trying to raise somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 over the course of a year, basically, maybe 9 months, right? Maybe 9 months to finish 2 more episodes. And, compared to how much we've raised in the past, it's like 15% of what we've raised in the past. So not a lot. And plus there's perks to ship and stuff. And I'm sorry, there's, I paid for the last batch of patches out of my pocket. I paid for shipping out of my pocket. Can't do that anymore. So, it's more incumbent on fans to donate, $25 or $50 or whatever.
Or a couple of days ago, somebody donated $1,000. I wanted to mention that.
Someone donated $1,000. Someone, who didn't donate in the Indiegogo. They had donated to the Kickstarter, and not $1,000. And I was sent them profuse thanks. I mean, that goes. You get something like that, it goes a long way. So the whole idea is to raise this amount of money, and that's why we've been shipping patches. We're about to ship the tunics. The tunics came in, so we're about to ship those. Again, when people say, well, I haven't seen anything for my money in 4 years, I'm like, well, bullshit. That's just like, yes, you have. Maybe you haven't been paying attention, but, if you should have gotten your patches by now, you should have seen all the content we're doing. And,
And some things can't be fulfilled until, Axanar is done, because one of the things is the DVD with Axanar on it, and if Axanar is not finished, you basically are giving them a blank DVD.
Well, you'd think that people would be smart enough to know that, and most of our donors are. I just got an email this morning and said, I didn't get anything. He said, I know the DVD I won't get until, you're done. I was like, thank you. And he was just missing his patches, so I just, anyone who says, oh, I never got my patches, I've got the patches all, in an envelope and everything. All I got to do is write on an address and slap on a stamp, and it gets shipped out.
Yeah, if you didn't get your patches, where do they email, Alec?
Alec at AxanarProductions.com.
Alec at AxanarProductions.com. Now, you do not have an excuse, unless you didn't want to listen to the whole interview, why didn't you listen to the whole interview? But anybody says, I didn't get my patches, look, you can simply email Alec, and he will ship them to you, and you'll have your patches.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I've been doing, and it's always, when people write me, I respond back to them, make sure they updated the info, and first go to Aries Digital. So please don't write me and say I didn't get my patches if you aren't also saying, I just went to Aries Digital and can confirm that my address is updated. Because I'm just going to email you back and say, go to Aries Digital, and when you've done that, then you can email me back.
And the way that you get to Aries Digital is you go to Axanar.com, and right up there at the top in the, very recently simplified upper navigation, we dumped a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't really necessary anymore. And when I say we, I mean I made certain suggestions to Alec, and then Lee Quessenberry did the actual grunt work of consolidating various things. Like all the blogs are now in one tab. But anyway, Aries Digital is right there. Go to Aries Digital. Log in. If you've never logged in before, there's instructions on how you can create an account. Check your email address. Check your mailing address. If everything is kosher, then, say, Alec, I didn't get my patches, and here's my address, and it should match, and he will send them out to you.
Yep, exactly. And right now we're also shipping in Indiegogo. If you give $100, you donate for the Ultimate Patch Collection, which was like 11 different patches, I think it was. We're shipping 12 actually. So anyway, those are all going out here over the next week or two. We're slowly. I mean, there's 356 people donated for that. So there you go. So we're shipping those out. So yeah.
Yeah. When I was over at your house a few weeks ago for the Interlude shoot, I saw all the envelopes full of patches, and they're just sort of like boxes and boxes and boxes of them. It's really kind of crazy. I'm so happy that I decided not to do perks for Interlude. I can't tell you.
Yeah, because it's a lot easier when you don't have anything. I mean, we're going to try a different model. We're going to give something. We basically are giving. We're basically assigning everyone Axabucks for one Axabuck for every $1 you donated, and then at the end we'll open up a little store and say, okay, spend your Axabucks here on whatever it is that we decide to populate that store with. So it's a little different way because it's going to get us past worrying about perks right now. And it'll be a little easy. We'll have a little more, because I don't want to give out T-shirts and mugs and whatever it is. Plus, we'd be arguing with CBS about what you couldn't give away as far as perks go. So there you go.
Okay. Anyway, back to the shoots and the crowdfunding. So right now, you were endeavoring to raise $60,000 to pay for one shoot you've already paid for and another shoot you're about to pay for. So what happens if you don't reach that $60,000? You can't unshoot the shoot you have in 2 weeks, right? What happens? I'm
going to wind up paying for it. We've been considering things that we're going to need to do. Like, there's certain, like with the uniform perks that are going out now, donors have to pay for shipping. Donors are going to have to pay for, you want extra braid? Oh, you don't want to be a lieutenant? You want to be captain? You have to pay for the extra braid. It comes with a patch, and it comes with braid for a lieutenant. But there's only so much money I can go out of pocket. And, listen, we've even considered, basically how do we fundraise through fulfilling the perks, right? Oh,
that's a good question.
Perks? Okay. I mean, think about it. If everyone who donated already just donated 15% of what they've donated in the past, we'd be fully funded. something like that is something that we're considering. We're trying to figure out the best way to, both make everyone happy and say, hey, you want to see Axanar, you're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, and I think with Kickstarter back when you did it, there wasn't any option back then to include shipping separately from your donation, whereas I think Kickstarter and Indiegogo both allow you to do that now, right?
Now that we've done a campaign in 4 years, I don't know.
Well, I'm pretty sure I've seen that. I mean, I've donated to enough campaigns recently that, there's you can donate $100 and then it says, we need to charge an extra $10 or $15 for shipping, which changes your donation amount, but obviously you need to cover the shipping, and nobody really gets that. I mean, the person that you're donating to gets that, but ultimately, UPS or FedEx or the U.S. Postal Service gets, that extra $15. So you still give it $100, but, you do have, but back in the days you did it, that was not included. So you had, I think, literally tens of thousands of dollars of postage to cover. That first, I think, even $100,000 that you raised, there was a significant portion of that went to postage. So, it can really eat up stuff. So and as you said, only how many? You said 300 people are getting tunics?
No, there was less than 100.
Oh, less than 100. Okay, so
yeah, it was less than 100 got tunics. I forgot the exact number right now. So the idea is that if you spent $400 for a tunic, would you be willing to donate an extra $60 to see Axanar finish? That's 15%. So if we could just get all of our old donors to donate an extra 15%, I mean that takes care of our expenses and makes it happen. And some donors, obviously, we've got almost $40,000 so far, and so a lot of donors have taken that to heart. But we really kind of, we have, I don't even know how many donors we have, 12,000, 15,000, whatever. So, some of them are repeats, but basically we have a lot of donors, and we just, kind of need everyone to chip in.
So back to the question of the next shoot, not the shoot that's coming up in December, but the shoot that's going to be happening in Los Angeles. And that's a big shoot for you. And you said something about March or April. So are you going to be trying to raise an additional $100,000 for that? I mean, at this point you're at 40 of 60. Or is it that the 60 that you're raising right now is going to go towards that shoot?
No. I think I was very clear that $60,000 pays for the first two shoots, October and December. We will need another $30,000 or so for the LA shoot.
Gotcha.
That's my guess.
And if so that 30 doesn't come in, does the shoot get delayed, or do you then pay for it yourself? The shoot gets delayed.
I'm going to be very clear to donors. You want to see Axanar, we need $30,000. And if it doesn't come in,
and then if it doesn't happen, then we don't see Axanar before Comic-Con.
No, you don't. That's right. It's so
tough love.
Yeah.
Truth to power.
Yeah. No, I'm just I cannot afford to keep funding Axanar. I put in over $200,000 so far, and that's way and people need to understand. I'm not going to keep putting money. I'm broke right now. I've been paying for everything, and I've got my own expenses I have to pay for that I.
Plus, you still need another, I guess, what about $1,500 or so a month for the studio?
Yeah, exactly. Now the studio is raising money, by doing selling items, selling mugs and patches and T-shirts and stuff. So, we hope to be able to close that delta every month by the Aries Studios store on ariesstudios.net.
And, of course, the Patreon is still growing, by the way. If folks don't know the address for that, it's patreon.com/Aries Studios.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
That's currently up to, somewhere over $2,500 a month. That's the good news. The bad news is you're trying to reach about $4,000 a month. So, you're still spending somewhere in the vicinity of, $18,000 a year of your own money to keep that studio open?
Yeah, and that needs to change.
Yeah, because there's only so many things left in the PropWorks vault for you to go and auction off, right?
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, I've pared my collection down to the bare minimum, selling stuff, and I have nothing left that I'm willing to part with. My collection has suffered for Axanar, so.
Well, at least some of us appreciate that, Alec. I think most of the Axanar fans appreciate that, and the fact is that I think a lot of folks are still believing in the dream and still giving you money. Obviously, we just need to spread that word. So it's one of those things. If you're an Axanar fan, what can you do beyond donating? Well, tell other people. Once again, you didn't sign, you being the person who's listening to this, the fan, you didn't sign any agreements with CBS saying that you wouldn't publicly, help ALEC solicit, for funding. ALEC can't solicit, but you can go and say, go to axanar.com and sign up for Aries Digital, and that's how you donate and, spread that word. Because, at this point, Axanar is looking good, which leads me to the next question. We already saw a very, very short trailer with that little JFK speech at the front, and about, less than 25 seconds of actual footage. Are we going to be seeing another trailer at some point soon? Because I think a lot of people are dying to.
Yeah, Paul Jenkins and Mark, our director, and Mark Edward Lewis, our editor and post supervisor, are working on a full trailer, and that is going to premiere mid-January after everyone gets over their holiday hangover as part of our next fundraiser. Yeah, so there you go. That's what we're going to be doing. It will be the launching point for the next fundraiser. You want to give people something different besides saying, hey, we're going to do a shoot in L.A. It's going to be, all right, here's what it's looking like, guys. You want to see the rest of this, cough it up. And once we
I want to see the rest of it because, now I won't actually have to fly all the way to Georgia for your next shoot. I can just, drive to the Valley or wherever we're going to be having it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you better believe I'm crashing your next shoot. That's like totally happening.
Oh, well, maybe we'll crash at your house.
I will let you ask my wife for that. Although technically you did let me crash at your house. And ALEC has a very nice house, by the way. That's one of the things that Aries Studio can offer fan filmmakers. They can give you crash space and all the dogs you can possibly pet, and a bunny.
That's right, Bugs the bunny.
Bugs the bunny, a cute little bunny that they have.
He's adorable.
You guys really just have a menagerie.
Oh my God, yeah.
You're like the Telosians, you and Crystal walking around with your menagerie of animals. But
without the big heads.
Anyway, to finish up, I would just want to spend a little time talking about the Interlude shoot because obviously I'm going to be talking about it more on the blog in my Interlude Confidential blogs. But I just want to say, first of all, it really was the most amazing experience to be there. The soundstage is, as we said, it's incredible, but it's not just the soundstage. It's the people who are there to support the folks that are filming on the set while you're there. Like, for example, Dana Wagner. I saw Dana's superpower, and I couldn't believe it. But Dana actually has the ability to read minds before the person thinks of what it is that they want. And it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But he will suggest something. And this happened multiple times where he would suggest something to Josh Irwin and Victoria Fox, my directors, and they would go, "You can do that?" And he'd go, "Yeah, sure, give me 5 minutes." Or sometimes even 2 minutes. But he would figure out what Josh and Victoria needed before they even knew that they needed it. Have you seen that superpower? Because I saw it multiple times.
Yeah, well, listen, that bridge is really his. I mean, he runs that bridge, and he knows how it works and what people need, and he's been in the entertainment industry all his life, so mostly in music, but in recording, and so he's a pretty sharp cookie.
Well, I'll tell you something. I mean, and I would love to tell you what it was that he came up with. There are about 3 or 4 things during the course of the 2 days that we were shooting there. I can't tell you what he came up with because they are just so cool that I've been sworn to secrecy because Josh and Victoria, they don't want people to know about any of this stuff until it actually comes out on film, because when you see it, it's just going to be so darn cool. But Dana was amazing, and everybody was doing something on that bridge. I mean, you had Lee Benjamin, and you had one of the Scots who were vacuuming it, and were wiping down all the chairs and just making sure it was ship shape, so to speak. And then Dana was putting in those new sort of comm panels, those actual like little pad things on the arms of the command chair, which were so amazingly cool. And before we got there, Scott Little, he repainted all the black areas of the bridge with this new like satin finish black paint that wouldn't be too glossy and reflective, but wouldn't be too flat either. And it was just like, we were like total VIPs there for the whole weekend. It was amazing.
We're only as good as the people who work with us. And we have some amazing volunteers who love doing it and are there to make great Star Trek.
And that was the amazing thing is these were all volunteers. I mean, at most, one of the Scots, he had to drive an hour to go pick up the folding tables and chairs for the folks to eat on for breakfast and lunch. And he said, look, I've got to drive over there. It's about an hour each way, and I got my trailer, so it's going to guzzle some gas. Can you cover my gas? I'm like, sure, I can cover your gas. He's going to drive there on a Friday with his trailer. Through traffic. I mean, this is Atlanta traffic. I mean, this is not like a small ask, but, not only is he doing that, but he's returning them for us on Monday, and so I didn't have to worry about any of that. And it was just such an amazing experience, and no one complained the entire weekend, the whole weekend long. Only one person complained about anything, and it was this schmuck who thought the coffee cups were too small and that we didn't have stevia.
What kind of asshole does that?
I don't know. He looked like Garth of Izar. He was.
I solved the problem by bringing bigger cups and bringing stevia. So, as I always say, if you're going to complain about something, you better come with a solution.
Yeah, thank you for being part of the solution, not just complaining about the problem there, Alex. And one of the things that was really cool is that Paul Jenkins stopped by on Sunday. I'm going to blog about this at some point, but I'm going to share it here as we get to the end of the interview. But Paul Jenkins stopped by, and he had actually asked me for permission a couple of weeks earlier. I mean, he didn't just like pop on in, but he was curious. I was like, sure, this is the man who saved Marvel Comics from bankruptcy in the 1990s. He wants to come to my fan film shoot? Sure. You can come the whole weekend if you wanted to. He's like, no, I'll come for an hour or two. And he did. And he stuck around and he watched. He actually provided a little bit of directorial help with the permission of Victoria and Josh. But he had a really great way of advising the bridge crew how to rock in their seats and, how to, all move left or all move right when the ship takes a hit. And so he spent like 5 minutes giving them sort of an instructional pep talk of, how to properly show that the ship's been hit without looking like, you're all going in different directions and somebody's like shaking the Etch-a-Sketch. And then at one point, we needed the lights to flicker, and basically the monitors to pretty much go, off and on, because the ship is taking a big, big, big hit. And in order to do that, you have to have people standing on the outside of the bridge, literally flicking the power on and off. And there's like a whole bunch of different places that are separate from each other that, like, not one person can do this. You have to flick certain panels at certain times. So we needed people who knew how to work those things on the outside. And we didn't have enough bodies because there's just so many consoles. And it was a really, really wide shot. And Paul's like, I'll do it, mate. And so the guy who saved Marvel Comics from bankruptcy, I'll say it again, the man who wrote Wolverine Origins, the guy who is directing and co-writing Axanar, is standing behind the consoles, flicking the lights for one of the scenes from my fan film. How cool is that?
And enjoying it.
And having the time of his life. I have a photograph of him in the back, and he's got this huge smile on his face. Because, that's the thing is it's a fan film. We're all fans, and all fans want to do is just have fun. Fan and fun. It's almost the same word. You just change the vowel. And, everybody there, I got so many people that day and the day after and the day after that and later on in the week, they were texting me, they were emailing me, thank you for letting me be part of this. And I'm like, for God's sakes, you're the one who traveled here for no money. You basically sat doing nothing for most of the day. You were on screen for maybe 1 or 2 hours out of a 12-hour shoot, and you're thanking me for this. I need to thank you. But everybody, they just all had so much fun. And, for me, that's just, it was the most amazing experience. And then add extra to that because so many other people just loved it. So, I totally get Axanar now. And I totally get why J.G. Hertzler and Gary Graham are constantly talking about how smoothly your set ran for the Prelude shoot and then obviously for the Axanar shoot, with the exception of the time that, J.G. got locked out and he was trying to bring ice in. But, aside from that, the two of them raved. And Richard Hatch, when he was alive, he raved about how wonderful the whole experience was and how that's not always the case on a set. But, when you have that many volunteers who are just so dedicated to Star Trek and to just making more of this amazing thing that we love, whether it's canon or not, and now that CBS is actually allowing us to do it if we follow the guidelines, it's even better because now we don't have to, have our heart in our throats the entire time saying, are we going to get sued? As far as I'm concerned, this is the golden age of fan films right now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I challenge the people who say, Axanar ruined fan films. Well, one, you're factually wrong. And two, you're not paying attention because there's a lot of really good fan films right now. Whereas before you had basically, you had New Voyages, which was so sporadic, and you had Continues, and then you had Renegades once in a while, and you had, Axanar once in a while, and that was it. But now you've got people who are regularly putting stuff out. You got Demons and Ghost Ship, from Josh and Victoria. You've got the guys down in Australia. I know you know all these names. I don't. The guys over
Aaron
in England.
Vanderklee in Australia. Gary O'Brien, who just did the Holy Corps in Great Britain, which was amazing.
Yeah.
There's folks in the Czech Republic. They did Diplomacy. I haven't even covered that one yet, but it looks amazing. The Intrepid is still going. Intrepid is now the longest running, still active Star Trek fan film. They started in 2003, and Nick Cook in Scotland is still making episodes.
I love it.
One of the nicest guys in fandom. But everybody's one of the nicest guys in fandom. Vance Major is one of the nicest guys in fandom.
He's awesome.
Gary Davis of Dreadnought Dominion and Randy Wren are the nicest guys in fandom. Everybody's one of the nicest guys in fandom, and they're just so dedicated to just making more Star Trek. It doesn't have to be official. It doesn't have to be canon. It doesn't even have to be good. Vance, he understands. He's filming stuff basically with the money he finds in his couch. But he has stories to tell. Back in the 1970s, this is what fan fiction was. People were busy photocopying their things and giving it away at conventions, whatever. And now we can make Star Trek, which is even cooler. And thanks to your bridge, we can make it look really, really awesome. And thanks to folks like the guys in Kingsland, with the TOS sets down there, and Warp 66 Studios that, Glenn Wolfe and Dan Reynolds are building in Arkansas, that it's just, there are places where you can make your really dinky-looking Star Trek fan film look really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I think we are at a time where fan films are not about someone's ego as they used to be, I'm just going to say. I think now the people that are left making fan films are cooperative. They are willing to help each other. I mean, we open our sets to everyone. I know Glenn is so accommodating to everyone with his sets. He builds stuff for people, right?
Yeah, Glenn Wolfe is actually building us a sick bay. Well, he already has a sick bay for Warp 66, but because Interlude takes place basically in Axanar time, so it's 20 years before Kirk. It's actually like 10 years before Where No Man Has Gone Before and the Cage era. So he's like retrofitting his sick bay. So not only does it look like sick bay, it looks like the sick bay of, we saw Gary Mitchell in, and even before that. And he's just doing that for, I'm going to be paying for his materials. I refuse to have anybody pay for the privilege of working on my fan film. If they want to work for free, that's great, but they're not going to pay to work for free. I draw the line there. But the thing is that, the amount of labor he's putting in to do all this stuff is way more than the materials that I'm covering for him. But he's doing that happily. And Dana, did all this stuff, on the Ares Bridge, because he wants to take care of that bridge. Scott, I didn't know that Scott Little was going to be repainting the bridge before we got there, but he wanted it to look the best it could. Yeah. So my hat is off to these fans who it's all about the love. It was about the love back in 2014 when I had that Ramirez meme that said, show me the love. And it was all about the love. And, 2016 with the lawsuit, I think the love was lost for a little bit. I think there was it was a shock. It was an earthquake. It rattled everybody. And there was still a lot of hard feelings going into 2017 and even 2018. But as things have progressed, there's some people who are still holding on to the negative feelings, the feelings of the hate as opposed to the love. But I'm seeing so much more of the love. You start off this call talking about how people email you and tell you, thanks for sticking with it. Thanks for not giving up on the Axanar dream, and that keeps you going. I get those same emails, for Interlude. I've got like 300 donors. The things they have said have been uplifting and energizing. I use that word for Star Trek. Engaging. It's just people really appreciate those of us who are putting ourselves out there to keep the dream alive, to make more Star Trek, just to have all this fun, and to let them be a part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're not able to travel to a set, you can still be part of it by donating, by participating in social media, et cetera.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing so many blogs about the actual process of making Interlude, because I really want to give people a chance to experience it, vicariously, because it was such an incredible, special moment for me, getting ready for the weekend, everything that went into that, the weekend itself, and even now in post-production, it's all so exciting, and I want to share it with as many people as possible, because it's such a wonderful, wonderful experience. So, add me to the list of people who thank you, Alec, for not giving up on the dream and making sure that Axanar happens.
Oh, yeah. That's what we're here for. Live the dream.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you get back to packing perks and dealing with dogs and making your fan film while I make my fan film.
Yeah, please, everyone, tune in to Axanar Confidential Friday night at 9 Eastern on the Axanar YouTube channel. I'm very happy to say we will have Trey Mac of Axanar Comics, who is here at Casa Peters all week, helping us with our explosion of dogs as Crystal's mom dumped her 3 dogs on us, in addition to art. And that, I would have gotten nothing done this week if it wasn't for Trey. So I flew Trey in for a week, and he's taking care of Crystal's mom's 3 dogs, and we are just getting so much done with Axanar. So we're real excited.
Yeah, Trey's got to have his own blog entry at some point for the amount of stuff that he's done. He also appeared in Interlude, by the way, and it was one of those things where he told me, he said, he and Nicole, he said, we're going to be at your shoot, and I realized it's expensive for him to get there. He lives very frugally, and I said, you don't have to come. I know that he'd have to fly or drive from Texas. Obviously you'd have to stay at a hotel, although ultimately you put him up on an air mattress in your place. But I said, you don't have to do it. He said, no, we're going to be there. We're going to be there come hell or high water. And I was like, well, if you're going to be there, then you guys look good. We're going to put you in extras uniforms. And not only was Trey an extra, and Nicole as well. We actually got her into a uniform. This woman who's kind of shy and just kind of puts up with her husband's obsessive hobby and being very supportive. And we got her into a uniform on the Artemis Bridge. And Trey actually got to be the helmsman of the Artemis. And he knocked it out of the park. He didn't have any lines, but it's a very physical when you're driving the Starship, there's a lot of stuff that you have to do, and you can't spend your entire time looking down, but you can't spend your entire time looking up, and you can't turn around and look at the captain. He's standing behind you, because then you're seeing the back of your head. The camera's seeing the back of your head. So there's so many things to do to keep yourself believable as a helm officer while you're still moving your hands, but not playing the piano, because it's not that kind of a console. And afterwards, Victoria, she's an actor herself, and she directed the actors. And she said it's very difficult to get that good of a performance out of a non-actor. There's a lot of things that people who aren't actors, and even some people who are actors, don't understand about having to do that. And I just kept watching over and over again as Trey was just nailing it. And he is totally the Artemis helmsman, as far as I'm concerned.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Seriously. So, tip of the hat to Trey. I'm glad he's been helping you this week. You've now basically made it almost impossible for me not to put this interview up in the next 24 to 48 hours, or else we will miss that Axanar Confidential. So I've got a lot of work to do tonight to edit through this. But I will get this sucker up. And in the meantime, Alec, thank you again for your time today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All righty. Well, now go make your fan film, and I'll go make mine, and we'll see each other in San Diego.
That's good. Take care. Live long and prosper, everyone.
Take care, Captain Garth.